shooting some buttery B-roll. It's just, God, I love it so much. Time to dump it, time to check it out, time to start working on it. I shot it using the wrong shutter speed. Fuck! Sorry, I had to shut those off quick. If I don't shut these speakers off, they tend to pick up on the, I got a microphone up here, so when there's all this feedback going back and forth, that's, it doesn't sound too great. Anyway, welcome back to another video. Great to have you here. Glad that you're stopping by. I'm glad that we can converse a little today. I just wanted to make a quick video today because I have a short story that I want to share with you guys. So a couple days ago, I got a text from a buddy. He was out shooting some video footage and he got back to edit it, but realized that he was having some issues. He shot this footage in 60 frames per second. He was trying to edit it on a 24 frames per second timeline, but noticed that he wasn't getting that smooth, buttery footage that he wanted with it being shot in 60. Instead, he was getting more of the glitchy, choppy footage that, well, you just don't want to have. Anyway, he reached out to me, said, do you have any idea why this might be happening? First thing I did was text it back and said, is your shutter speed double your frame rate? Which he just responded with, well, So I thought it'd be a good opportunity to make a quick video about shutter speeds in video, the correct shutter speeds to shoot in, the general rule of thumb of what you want to follow to make sure you are getting the best possible footage you can get. So basically, video is just a bunch of pictures being taken right after the other within the frame of 1 second. So you've heard terms like 24 frames per second, 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second, 120 frames per second. That frame rate that you're shooting in is actually the amount of pictures that are being taken within that 1 second. So if you're shooting in 24 frames per second, you're taking 24 pictures in 1 second. If you're shooting in 60 frames per second, you're taking 60 pictures per second, so on, so forth. You get it. Pictures, 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 pictures. Tons of pictures being taken, all in the frame of 1 second. So when you go to choose the frame rate that you're going to shoot in, whether it be 24, 30, 60, so on, you need to set your shutter speed accordingly to the frame rate that you're shooting in. So the general rule of thumb to go by is whatever your frame rate is, your shutter speed needs to be double that. When you're setting up your shutter speed, you want to look for what looks like this on your camera, and that is your shutter speed. So if you're shooting in 24 frames per second, your shutter speed should be 1/150th of a second. If you're shooting in 60 like my friend was, you want to make sure that your shutter speed is 1/125th of a second. Again, not exactly double, but still more than double. And if you're shooting in 120 frames per second, well, then you want to be 1/250th of a second for your shutter speed. For example, in this clip, I shot in 60 frames per second. However, I did not double my frame rate with my shutter speed. I'm only at 1/50th of a second, and that's why you see how it's choppy and kind of like it's just working too hard to get along. But then in this clip, I'm shooting in the same frames per second, 60, but I doubled my frame rate with my shutter speed at 1/125th of a second, and it looks way smoother. This is how it should look. So if you've ever dealt with choppy or glitchy footage in the past, a good place to start for finding the root of the problem would be the shutter speed, and is it double whatever your frame rate is? Does it sound like I'm repeating myself? I kind of feel like I just keep repeating well, this is important stuff. This is stuff that they should know, right? I mean, it's stuff I've screwed up on. I have screwed up on it a lot of times. More times than I like to admit. Everybody has. This is something that we all go through. It's the growing pain. Well, exactly. So it's okay if I'm repeating myself. The shutter speed should be double the frame rate. We'll say it together. The shutter speed should be double My throat gets a little dry when I say the same thing over and over. But it's just that important of a tool to remember, something that you have to do when you're shooting video. Otherwise, you're gonna end up with choppy footage. You're gonna end up with footage that's rendered useless. You can't use it. If you shoot in a shutter speed that is lower than your frame rate, it's not fixable. It's not fixable. The only way that you can fix it is if you reshoot the footage. So rather than having to do that, because we all have time to go reshoot, we don't have time. Now, depending on what camera you're using, there's probably some presets you can put in your settings to make sure that this doesn't happen. You can just have a preset that says whenever I'm in 24 frames per second, my shutter speed is gonna be 1/50th of a second, and that's a whole nother video we could do depending on what camera you're using. But your shutter speed should be double the frame rate that you're shooting in. That is going to give you the best looking footage. It's gonna give you the best amount of motion blur. And if you are shooting in something like 60 frames per second or 120 frames per second, one of those higher frame rates where you're looking to slow it down and get that nice, buttery, smooth slow motion, you wanna make sure you can get that footage. We all just love that smooth, that just, gosh, it looks so good when it's just 60 that's shot right, 120 that's shot right. Slow motion is just it's the chef's kiss. Now the question does get asked, can I shoot in a shutter speed that's even higher than double the frame rate? Technically you can, because shutter speed has a lot to do with light as well and how much light you're letting into the sensor of your camera. Generally, the higher the shutter speed, the less light that's coming into the sensor. The lower the shutter speed, the more light that's coming into the sensor. You can shoot, if you're outdoors, you can use a higher shutter speed to adjust your exposure a little better, but you always need to make sure that your shutter speed is double the frame rate. Double the frame rate, I know. No, I know I've said it. Well, I was gonna say it again. I understand it's been repeated. Shoot the right shutter speed. Get the footage that you desire, okay? You're not getting the footage that you desire with the wrong shutter speed, okay? We're getting the good footage. We're getting that. We're just trying to get the best footage. Let's go get it, shoot it, record, right shutter speed, right frame rate. Let's do it all. Let's do it. Go in the right spot. No, that's not where I want you. God, that's probably so loud. Oh, and if you didn't already, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Maybe comment with some video ideas that you'd like to see, because I'll be back here to do another one. Okay, bye.